So this is Baruch Fleischman here, and I've come back to the Keep Tikkun Elevator Kollel, getting the driver's seat over here, and tried to bring up the Zohar for the 6th day of the week. This is the Zohar for the day called Yesod. Everything enters into Yesod. So here we're going to do the same thing we did before and try this style. It's of Asav V'Sav Shabbos. He says Aval Saba Saba. So Rebbe Shimon says to the Saba who appeared in the middle of the base medrash, has come before. He says Shabbos Di'ihu Bas Yechida. Shabbos is the one and only daughter. V'ihi Bas Zuge de Tzadik Di'ihu Shabbos. And what we've learned yesterday, in the shir from yesterday's and other times, is that he says that Shabbos is the one and only daughter. Then he says that she is also the daughter, or I'm not exactly the mate, that's right, Bazuge, of the tzaddik. Who's the tzaddik? We said previously it's Yesod, the Shabbos, the Ihu Shabbos. And he says the word Shabbos goes along with the word Yesod. Now, I wouldn't have thought that myself. I would think the Shabbos goes along with the number 7, which is actually Malchus. But let's go on. Ma imacheres yikach lo. So part of the pasuk that we learned is that if a man takes a Canaanite wife, so his amalei ha vadai havdala cholul shel Shabbos. So he says this is some kind of a differentiation, which you have to understand what he's talking about. He says havdala of the weekday versus, or the weekday part of Shabbos. I'm not sure what that means. And with Baruch Hashem, we have a matuk b'devash who can help me out. So he says, there is acheres, because there's another avenue. The law is Kariyas Chulul Shal Shabbos, which is not called by the weekday part of Shabbos. Alo Chulul Shal Tuma Shifcha, which is a different kind of chul. It's the ordinary or profane nature of the tuma that comes from a female slave. So Amalai, it sounds like the Saba says back to Rebbe Shimon, V'ho chulu shel Shabbos mahi. So when I've said, what do you mean when you say by the word of the weekday part of Shabbos? Amalai da amsa. This is talking about the female slave. Dihi gufu de bas yechido. That there is talking about the body of this one and only daughter. The Allah itmar, that in regards to her it says, Imacheres yikach lo, if you take another one for you. Now I would say that's about as mysterious as they come to really try to understand what is this concept of Chul of the Shabbos, what is all this around. So let's find out. So now he says, of a host of Rebbe Shimon, Rebbe Shimon who's been arguing with the Saba that came to visit. And he says, Saba, Grandpa, the Vimashim before Shlachalon, and what we're going to explain later on in this parsha, Shabbaparshas, V'chi Yimchor Ish as Bito La'ama, because later on we're going to see the concept that a man sells his daughter. This is a part of the Hebrews, the old Hebrew society, that daughters who really needed husbands could be sold before the time of being a wife, and they'll work in the house, and they'll work as servants. So this Bito, who is sold, Oseches ben Neshama de Chatzila, she works with the Neshama of Chatzila, and Nikra Bito Shala Kodesh Baruch Hu, who is called the daughter of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He says, Kashal, it's a problem for me. Nishma de Ichi Bas Yechido. He said, that's the phrase. He says, the Neshama Zu Shehi Nikras Bas Yechida, the one and only daughter. The one and only daughter shall Malchus, the Chatzilus of the Malchus of Etzilus. That's where he's going with this. Vihi Bas Zuge the Tzadik Dihu Shabbos. So this Malchus of Etzilus, this is the daughter that comes to the Malchus of Etzilus. So in other words, this is, I'm not sure. V'cham Malchus, he Bas Zugo shall Yesod. So he says the Malchus is actually the female, the mate of Yesod. Hanikra Tzadik, who's called by the name Tzadik, Shuhu Sod Yom Shabbos, which is also the secret of the day of Shabbos. Shemimenu Yotzes and Neshamos, the Chatzilus, because it's from the Yesod that flowers forth and brings forth to the Neshamas, the Chatzilus, Derek Malchus, and he does this through Malchus. In other words, he plants them in Malchus, and Malchus brings them out. Shehu mashpia osam malamala mimakom on the shamas, because she's the one who actually pours them out into the lower worlds from the fountain of neshamas, which he had used the word the quarry of neshamas before. He said im came, which is in Itzilus. Im came my im becheres yikach. So therefore, this concept over here. So that's the neshama that we're talking about, the neshama of Itzilus. Then what does he mean when he says if he takes another wife, meaning one that's not from Itzilus? Mi hi acheres sheyikach v'yishatef HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'neshama d'Atzilus. So who is this other aspect that we're talking about? This other, it sounds like another wife, that this neshama should take and join together with it, and join together the neshama of Atzilus with this other wife. Ki melashon acheres, because when you use the word another one, nirish hi zara, like she's a foreigner, she's not part of the family. Zara mamish, the hand of neshama besitra the achra. This is talking about if the person takes upon himself a neshama, so he, in other words, he joins himself to a tumadika neshama. So the Chavashochenes beguv shal nochre, which is living inside of the body of a goya. And this is what it means for sure. It is impossible for the neshama that comes from such a high place to slavish the neshama the klipa, that it should be clothed inside of something tumadik like the neshama of the klipa. Amalek Saba the Rebbe Shimon. Now the Saba now turns and he says this to Rebbe Shimon. Ha vadai, you're right. Zeshakasav imacheres yikachlo, where it writes if you should take another one. It's mashma, he says, that from what you said, it's mashma that he's talking about if he takes a shiksa, a woman that's not pure, but not Jewish. Haino havdalo chulu shel Shabbos, a muvdelis, haneshama, then the neshama splits off. Shehi bechinas cholu shel Shabbos, which is the concept, I don't know who's the he is yet, that she is the concept of the bringing the weekday into Shabbos. The is acheres the lo is kariyas chulu shel Shabbos. He says, why? Kishiyesh neshama shehi acheres, there's another concept, a concept of another neshama, which is acheres the gamri, completely and totally divorced. She'ena nikros cholu shel Shabbos. It's not called by the name of cholu shel Shabbos. Now, I still don't understand myself what cholu shel Shabbos means, but I'm trying. Elo chulu shel tum shifcha. Shehi bechinas chol. She's of the profanation of the klipa. Shehi chol gomer, which is completely and totally has no kedusha in it at all. Shal zech v'vadai, because regard to this is for sure. Lo ne'emar imacheres yikach lo. For them, it certainly does not. It certainly shal zu vadai lo ne'emar. It doesn't say in regards to those other ones, the real tumadika ones, imacheres yikach lo. If you take another one, so now what they just say, I'm not really 100% sure. I'm trying to find out where we're going with this. So he says Amalai. So he says Rebbe Shimon la Saba. So Rebbe Shimon said to Saba, Hai chulu shal Shabbos mahi. So use this word, this phrase, the weekdays of Shabbos, or the profane part of Shabbos, or that profane is a strong word in English. Let's say it would be the non-holy part of Shabbos, a part with no potential, but that's profane. He says, Shalo pirashta al mi ne'emar. So you haven't explained. I mean, you use this word, Rabbi Shimon says to the Saba. He says, you use the word, but you didn't tell me what it belongs to. Says Amalei Hasaba, so the Saba says to him, Dal Amsa. This is regarding the female slave. Zuhu neshama ma'ama havriya. So now he's going back to the other side. That is the man, the father, who is able to sell his daughter to become a servant, and potentially it's an introduction to marriage. That's what I would call it that. Into a situation where you have like a pre-marriage, which is as not living together, but living in the same house and working the same place, and when the time comes that the marriage will be chal on it, it will take place. And he says all of this, and I can't touch it up. He says the concept of the female slave, which is the Amma of Rhea, who is sold, get some money for the parents, and then the child will grow up in the house of a man who will marry her. Dihu gufa de bas yechida. She, this Amsa of Rhea, She is the body. She is the body of the Bas Yechida, of the one and only daughter. Now let's understand what he means. This is very symbolic. Let me get these words right. So this, he says, Chulul Shel Shabbos. So he says the Ichi Guf of the Bas Yechida. Shehia Guf, this Chulul Shel Shabbos. It's the physicality, I think he means to say, of Shabbos. There's a certain amount of physicality there. Sheha Guf Shel Neshama D'Atzilus. This is the body of the Neshama D'Atzilus. Hanikras Bas Yechida. And this body of the Neshama that fits the Neshama D'Atzilus goes into it. This is called the one and only daughter. And this particular position is what separates, is at the border between what is Kaddish and what is not. The Allah Itmar, because in regards to her, it says, Imacheres Yikachlo, Pirish. Sheyuchula HaNeshama, the Chatzilus, should be come out. Sheyuchula, it should be able to be the Neshama that comes from an Olam on Chatzilus. The Hisgalgal, to become reincarnated, recycled, the Hislavesh, and to be clothed, by the Neshama, the Yetzira, in the Neshama that was formed from Olam Yetzira, Shea Acheres Bimena, which is another place other than Atzilus. So let's see if there's just the slightest bit more that we could say here. The Zohar says like this, Tochazi, come and see. Let me bring it down so we can all see it. Once again, Tochazi. Is Nishmasa the Iskarias Amma. There's a category of a Neshama, a holy one, which is called by the name of a maidservant. The is Neshama the Iskarias Shifcha. But then there's a correspondence. There's also a Neshama that's called a Shifcha. Shifcha usually refers to someone's not Jewish. This Nishmasa the Iskarias Bratach of the Malka. Then there's also a Neshama that's called the daughter of the queen, or the king, I know which. Hochi is ish de itmar be, and then so there's also a man. In regards to that man, it said, Hashem ish melchama, that Yudke Vavke is a man of war. Yudke Vavke always refers to Zeranpin. This ish de itmar be, and then there's another kind of man, where it says Vahish Gavriel. The man is called the Gavriel. The begin dog, which is Lashon Gibor, Gvura. The begin dog nishmasa de ihu machayvecha begilgul. So therefore, we're saying like this. That neshama, which is guilty, and as a result of that has transgressed and is obligated to be reincarnated, and I like the word recycled, if we're talking about the concept of a brata the kudsha, which is a very high level, if you say that it's sold to be in regards to or related to a foreign body, foreign physical body, the Taman Shultanusa, the Yetzahara, in other words, a goy. So there is the place where you have the dwelling place of the Yetzahara. The Ichu Mesitru, the Samakel, which come from the side of the Samach Man. Chas v'shalom. The Chachassid, because it's written over here, Ani Yudke Vavke, Hu Shemi, that's my name, but Kvodi la'acher lo eitain, and my glory to another I will not give. The Ihu is the other, the Ihu Yetzahara. Let's see this. We'll learn a little bit here. That will be the Torah for this week. So it comes over this. Let's read the Matik B'Devash, and it says along with the. So it says Hosiv Rebbe Shimon v'Omar. Rebbe Shimon says Saba Saba. The V Mashim before Halon. What's going to be explained over a little bit later. Sheparshas v'chi yimchor ish as bito la'ama, because there's a pasuk that says when a man sells his daughter as a female servant. Osekas ben Neshama de Chatzilus and Nikvus Bito Shal Kodesh Baruch Hu. That whole pasuk, that whole parsha, is dealing with the concept of the Neshama that comes from Atzilus, and it is called the Bito Shal Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Bas, the daughter of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So he says, Shem Rebbe Shimon says cautiously, but it's a problem for me. He says Nishmasa de Iku Bas Yechida. Wait a minute, I think I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong place. Sorry, sounded good. L'mefarish Tochazin, it comes to say like this: Is Nishmazad is Karias Amma. There's a neshama that's called by the name of Amma. He's a Chababav Reiki Yesh Neshama Shehi Ma'olam Yatzira. There's a neshama born of the Olam Yatzira, and he's telling you this. Nikras Amma, which is called Amma. He's telling me this. I didn't heard it before. This Nishmasa, this Korea Shifcha. Then there's another concept of the Shifcha. Shed Mushrashas Beklipa, but that's the name for a female servant who is rooted in Klipa, Hanikras Shifcha, and that's the name for that. The is Nishmasa, the is Korea's Brata the Malchon. There's also a Neshama that's called the daughter of the queen. V'yesh Neshama Shehir Mimalchus comes from Malchus, the Tzilus. Hanikras Bas Melech, which is called the daughter of the king. V'afal pi she'amarna, even though we said up above, she'ama hi bebria, that we said you have to correspond ama to the concept of bria, which means below, outside of Etzilus. Im kol zecha be'erek hashifcha, but even so, if you look at her into the relationship, compare her to the shifcha, shiha klipa, which comes from klipa, nikras yitzira ama. So therefore, she's called Amma. He wants to say that the word Amma, he said two different things. One, the word Amma refers to a neshama created in Olam Yitzira. And the other one, he said that the Amma refers to the El Sha'ama, he Bebria, refers to Olam Abria. So let's go on. Hachi is, so either Bria or Yitzira, I don't know which. Hochi is ish the itmar babes. Here we see there's a man, it said, regards to him, komo ken yesh ish shene'emabo, it says in him, Yudke Vavke, usually refers to Zer Anpin. Ish Milchom is a man of war. Shuhu Zer Anpin, the Atzilus, this is the Zer Anpin of Olam Atzilus, v'is ish the itmar babe. There's another kind of man. V'ish Gavriel. So Gavriel is also an ish. Shuhu Zer Anpin the Yitzira, but it's a Zer Anpin in a lower world, in the world of Yitzira. So he said, "Well, begin da," and for this reason, nishmasa the ichum b'chayve begilgul. So therefore, a neshama that has to come back and recycle into this world of neshama she muchayeves begilgul, it has to be reincarnated. Im he barata the kuja barichu. If this neshama is the daughter of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, he bidul shel Zer Anpin. She's actually a daughter of Zer Anpin. Where does this neshama come from? It comes as a result of a yichud, the yichud between Zohar and Nuk and Olam Etzilus. Is daben begufa buchra. So im tomar shehi nimkeres v'nizgageles beguf nachri. So if you say that the neshama would be mizgagel and cycled into the body of a goy, the tamen Shultanusa, the Yetzahar, because over there, that's where you find the control of the Yetzahar, the Iuhum Besitu, the Samakel, which comes from the side of the Samakel. Shesham Shlitas, the Yetzahar, which is where the Yetzahar is in control. Shuhu Mitzad, the Samach Mem, which is from that side of Samach Mem. Chas V'Shalom, God forbid, Lomar came to say this. The Hal Kasiv, and because it's written like this, Ani Hashem, Hu Shemi, I am Hashem, that is my name. Ukuvodi, and my glory, my honor, Shehir HaNeshama D'Tzilus, which is the fact that I have within me a neshama that comes from a Tzilus. La'achar lo eiten, I will not give it to the other side. Pirish lo eiten osa to his goggle, I will not place it into a situation even when I'm sinning. I have sinned, but that neshama is so perfect. Also on this goggle beguv shal asitra achra, it should not happen. That should never happen. Dihu Yetzahara, that other neshama, that other goof, that's the goof of the guy. Shuhu Yetzahara Nikra Achra Hasholet, who's called Acher, is called by the name Acher. He says Hasholet ala Adam Lachtiu, which is really in control of a man to cause him to sin. Al Devadai im neshama zud sricha his goggles, so therefore for sure, with this neshama, if it's necessary for it to come back again, Harehi mizgalgelas beguf a mushrosh begedusha, that will only, that neshama coming from Olam Atzilus can only come back into the world, even if it's a Gilgul, into a body that is destined to have come from Gedusha of Atzilus, below beguf meshitra achra, and not from the goof from the other side. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is the Parsha Mishpatim. Day 6. Wonderful Shabbos. Enjoy.